All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the December 9th meeting of the Milledgeville Rotary Club. Please silence your cell phones as Carla Walters comes up as our Rotarian of the day and leads us in the prayer pledge and the four-way test.
Everyone, let's bow our heads. Lord, we're really grateful for everything that we have and the privilege of living in the peace that we enjoy. Want to remember our families, friends, and loved ones, all of our associates, our leaders, both local and national, and help them in their decision making. Lord, we also thank all of those who prepared this food, from cultivating it to transporting it so that we could enjoy it here and yet nourish our bodies and strengthen our minds. We ask this in your name, amen.
Amen.
All right, here we go. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Four-way test. I have to get over here and read it. The four-way test are the things say or do. First,
Is it true?
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
and most important,
Is it fun? Thank you, Carla. And as you're seated, please remember our cart fund bucket there. Drop your loose change in. Let's see. I don't see a total on here for last week. Greg, do you know what our cart fund was for last week?
It should be around 275. Is it 50-50 wrap?
No, the cart fund.
No, I don't know.
All right, we're gonna call it $10. Can I get two matches for $10 each? All right, Crystal, and get one more person to match for 10. All right, Nick Goebel. All right, thank you too. In the way of announcements, I've placed a sheet on each table. We're going to do an angel tree this year. So we've got 6 students from the Baldwin County school system that are in need this year. We've got a lot of homeless kids who might not have a Christmas if we don't help out. So what we did, there's a list on the front side of that page that shows kind of what each one asked for. On the back, we've summarized it. You got a choice. You can either pick a kid that you want to take care of, or if you just want to buy some individual items, you can turn around on the back side and just sign up. So if you want to get a basketball or get a gift card or some gift cards. So if everyone would sign up on there, we'll have the same sheet tonight at the Christmas party, which is the second announcement. Remind everybody at 5:30 this evening out at Lake Laurel, we've got our Rotary Christmas party. And Erin is out right now cooking and getting stuff prepared for it. Hope to see a lot of you out there. Nick?
Just wanted to remind everybody about the Rotary raffle. Now's the time to get your tickets sold, get them returned. You can return them here at the meetings or my office in downtown Global Media, downtown Milledgeville, right across from CBS. Everybody's doing a really good job. We're doing pretty well on this so far. So I just wanted to remind everybody, do that push. If you've got extra tickets and you don't think you're going to be able to get them sold, see me or Jennifer, just kind of talk about it, see what we can do. And if you need extra tickets to sell, again, see me. We've got some extras. We're doing some work on Facebook. We haven't been able to get online payments going yet, unfortunately. But we are selling some on Facebook, and I'm coordinating with people to drop by my office to pick up extra tickets. So I appreciate everybody's hard work on it. It's our biggest fundraiser of the year, so it's important that we get them sold here. Obviously, it starts early January, so before the end of the year. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
In the past, we've gotten the list of the people who sold to the previous year.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can?
That's been emailed out from Jennifer, but I can provide it to you. Is there anybody else who's looking for that? Maybe we'll blast it out, the whole list out again. We also sent out via email the prize list, which is the same as last year. So You can use last year's prize list or, you know, the updated graphic that we emailed out. But I will, I'll send the list with the 2021 sales again, so that you'll have that. Anybody else have any other questions? Good, great.
All right. Any other announcements? Yes. Kristen.
Since we're in the spirit of giving, I'm actually doing an Operation Santa Claus at my office, so for the fur babies, I am doing a donation for the Animal Rescue Foundation here in Milledgeville. I cannot accept cash donations, but if you want to bring by a bag of dog food, cat food, litter, some toys for the animals there, that would be greatly appreciated. You can drop that off at my neighbor John's office, and we're doing that until December 24th. Thank y'all.
Okay. Any other announcements? Dr. Price?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone who volunteered and also donated money for the Thanksgiving baskets. We were able to provide Thanksgiving meals to 75 families. And think about it, in this great country, there are people that would go without. And so you were instrumental in making sure that at least 75 families in our community have Thanksgiving. And I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it.
Any other announcements? Now, William's not here. Anybody we need to add to the prayer list? All right. Not. Greg, you want to come do the 50 raffle? Or, oh, Kristen's going to do it. Okay. Okay, yeah, so guest wise, we need to do that one first. Right, so, Francis, are you visiting? Are you, I guess, from a member? Paul, you want to introduce Francis?
Well, I was just walking down the street, Frank said he needed lunch. Actually walked down the hallway. He's always been interested in the Rotary Club and
Awesome.
making join now, since I had to buy his lunch.
There you go.
Never
Francis,
better than here.
by a long ways. All right,
If you need a contractor, Francis is the man to call.
awesome. Awesome. Well, Francis, welcome. And I've got a guest today, Tamara Siragusa. Tamara's my sister-in-law and also marketing manager for Responsive Technology Partners. And she is interested in joining our club. So now, Kristen, you want
Two, 7, 6, 5, 8, 9.
I'm not here.
I don't know if I trust Jimmy, but you might want to check it.
Let you tear that.
All right. We get $10 for playing. All right. With that, Greg, you want to come up and introduce our guest speaker today?
Sure will.
I am very excited to have this gentleman here today because I think what he has to say is important. Our guest speaker is Jim Duffy, and amongst other things, Jim is the vice chair of the Georgians for Fair Taxation. And he'll be talking to us about legislation to replace our current income tax system with a consumption tax. And the many benefits involved in that changeover. Jim's been working with this process for some time now, and I've met him through my efforts to promote the fair tax. But rather than listen to me speak, Jim's the expert, so I'm going to introduce Jim Duffy.
How many of you have heard of the fair tax before today? Okay, my discussion or my
emphasis is going to be primarily on the evolution of it, rather than getting into the technology or the technical aspects of it, of how it affects every person or every segment of our society. There's plenty of information on our website, both nationally at fairtax.org or georgiafairtax.org. For any particular situation you have a question about, you can check on there. There's white papers, there's videos, there's all kinds of information to specifically address a question you might have on any segment of society. But the essence of the fair tax is to replace all income taxes, including payroll taxes, estate taxes, and replace them with one consumption tax at the retail level only. There would be no business to business taxation. Business purchases for a business would not be taxed within the business. The only thing that would be taxed is their product or service. When it goes to the public is when it's taxed. The problem with what we've got is that it's a very simple process. And where we're trying to come from is a very complicated process with all the tentacles and the entrapments that are within it that are used to punish your enemies, or punish their enemies, the politicians, and reward their friends. That's the essence of what we're trying to get rid of. It's been around since 1913. And it took something in the range of 40 years to get that done back then. It started in the 1870s, temporarily had an income tax. At that time, it was repealed. And subsequently moving forward, the progressive movement finally got to Congress and got the bill passed. And the conservatives said, okay, we'll go with it because it'll never pass and get ratified by the states. Well, it did. So here we are today with this morass of over 80,000 pages of instructions and rules and all this kind of stuff that the IRS has in order to make our lives more complicated on a daily basis. Well, back in the 1970s, a movement was started to try to get something done to replace the income tax. Unsuccessfully until the early 1990s, when three rich Texans got together and decided they wanted to try to do something with their money and come up with a scheme that would replace the income tax. What would it look like? So they spent $23 million of their own money, hired 75 economists and experts in the field of taxation, and came up with the fair tax. And the other part of the fair tax is that it does not tax poor people, or actually anyone up to the poverty level. Currently, the poverty level falls of expenditures up to, for a family of four, of about $36,000 in round numbers. And it graduated depending on your spending of whatever money you have available. And the rate of taxation on the national level would be 23% and replace, like I said, all the income taxes, including Social Security, Medicare, and payroll taxes, and which, if you look at it technically, those taxes make up about 22% of all goods produced. So we're replacing it with a 23% tax to replace a 22% inclusive taxation. Anyway, you get into the technology of it, it gets a little complicated, but we've got a prebate which takes care of the taxes up to the poverty level that everyone that has a Social Security number is qualified to receive. And that would be handled on a monthly basis through a computer system or cash card, however you want to set it up to make it simple and easy for that to be administered. Anyway, the rich Texans couldn't come up with anybody to introduce a bill to Congress. They tried and tried and tried. nobody wanted to sponsor a bill like this that would be really hard to get passed, first of all, and transfer all of the power back to the people, not all the power, but a major part of the power that's used in Washington to give it back to the people. Finally, a fellow named John Linder, who was a congressperson from the 7th Congressional District, primarily Gwinnett County, agreed to put the bill in. And he convinced 3 other Republicans and 4 Democrats to co-sponsor the bill with him in 1995. Well, they worked to get it done, and finally in 1999, they got the bill introduced. Within 3 to 6 months, the 4 Democrats were gone, and it was all a Republican-sponsored bill. And since then, I think there's only been 1 Democrat that's been on the bill at any given time. So from that time on, the bill went into the Ways and Means Committee, and it hasn't gotten out. It hasn't gotten to the floor to be debated or anything, simply because of the entrenched special interest in our current system. Follow the money, the chambers of commerce, the big business, none of those entities typically want to do anything that's going to take their cash cows away, is what it amounts to. So fast forward from 1999 to today, every year the bill has been reintroduced and reintroduced and reintroduced. And at last count, the last time it was in, we had about 80 co-sponsors in the House and about 12 in the Senate. So it's fairly representative. And the last time it was introduced in the state, in the US Senate, our Senator Perdue at that time, he ran on the fair tax. And the reason he ran on it is we sent him, when he was in the process of running his candidacy, we sent him a white paper that explained how our current system made us less competitive on the international stage because of the balance of trade issues and the border adjustment of taxation. What that means is, in effect, that the 35 OECD countries, developed countries in the world that comprise primarily the economic systems of the world. All of the countries except one, the United States, have an adjustment of taxation when they export goods, meaning that the embedded taxes in goods that are exported, taxes from those 34 other countries are removed from the export. And in the United States, because of our tax system, the taxes stay there. So we are at an immediate tax advantage or pricing advantage because of the embedded taxes in our goods that are exported. The fair tax would take care of that because it would put us on a par, and the embedded taxes wouldn't be there because of the tax system that we would have under the fair tax. So he bought into that. We spent about 12 hours with him, teaching him the essence and the elements of it, or answering his questions. And that was the main focus of his running for office. The night of the election, when he saw he was going to win, his chief of staff came to us and said, "You guys put us over the top." Because what we did, although we don't endorse candidates, at that time there were 17 candidates for US Senate for the state of Georgia. And we gave every candidate the option to let us know when they were going to be speaking favorably about the fair tax, and we would get people there. Got a database of 40 to 50,000 people. We could target a particular area. People, if they were going to hear about the fair tax or support it, would go to those meetings. Well, the only candidate that did that was Senator Perdue. Even Jack Kingston, who he was in the runoff with, who sponsored the fair tax in the Senate or in the House, essentially he didn't do anything. He was standing on his record. Senator Perdue's office did that. We got people out to support the fair tax. They voted for him. Mr. Kingston lost. in any event, that's sort of the backstory. But about 5 or 6 years ago, we, as a fair tax entity, decided we needed to perhaps take a different tact because we weren't getting anywhere on the national stage with the National Congress. So we decided to focus on states, thinking that if we could get a state to pass a fair tax model for the state, or maybe several states to do that. Currently, there are 9 states that don't have an income tax. If you look at the statistics, those 9 states are doing better economically than the other 41, generally speaking. Right now, Georgia is surrounded on the south by Florida, who has no state income tax. On the north by Tennessee, it has no state income tax. South Carolina's got a fair tax bill in their hopper. Alabama's working on one, but they've got pretty good support. Nebraska's working on one. So we decided that we would concentrate on not forget about the national level fair tax, but see if we could get some states to work on it. Well, 5 years ago, we put a state bill in. The main sponsor was Representative Emory Donahue from the Gainesville area. He put the bill in. The first day the bill dropped, we had 53 co-sponsors. Went to the Ways and Means Committee. Zip. The chairman of Ways and Means was not for it. The governor at that time was Governor Deal. He was a sponsor of the fair tax on the national level when he was a congressperson, but when he became governor, he became vehemently against it. And if you follow the money trail, you might understand why. But we would go to meetings where he would be talking and somebody would mention the fair tax and he would attack that person for asking the question. So we had no support at high levels. Speaker of the House wasn't for it. He was sort of ambivalent, but he really wasn't for it. Lieutenant Governor wasn't for it. So we had no real support in leadership on the state level. And our product was written by the Beacon Hill Institute in Boston. It was a good bill. It worked. It came out with the fiscal notes to be revenue neutral, and the tax rate on it would be 6.42%. And in the state of Georgia, as you know, we have both an income tax at 6% and a sales tax at 4%. And then the counties and the cities that have add on their lost or splost are added to that 4%. Well, it's interesting thing about the state sales tax is that in 2002, when the governor changed and Sonny Perdue came in as governor, Republican, fiscally conservative, supposedly, there were 4 exemptions to our sales tax. Fast forward to today, there's over 140 exemptions and exceptions to our sales tax. So you get a flavor of Republicans are not necessarily smaller government folks either when they get into power. So that's a problem. So what we're doing on the state level is we're looking to do away with the state incomes as well as the current sales tax and incorporate and fold that into the fair tax model for the state. The biggest difference between the national model and the state model is we don't have to contend with Medicare and Social Security on the state level. So it's a little bit simpler, but still it's a complicated process because you look at, here again, the special interest and what it would do to them as far as controlling the elements of our life. It's a sad commentary, but that's what we've got to deal with. So follow the money, and what we're trying to do under the fair tax model is move the power, in the way we term it, is take back control. Take the power away from the political entities, move it back to us in a very simple, straightforward tax system where every time you buy something, you see how much tax you pay. It's not undercover, it's not veiled, whatever. And some folks come up and say, well, what about scamming the system? How people might, work to not pay sales tax by, workarounds and that kind of thing. Well, one of the things that would keep that from happening is that under our current system, it only takes one to scam it, the person filling out their tax return. If you're not audited, you're not caught. Under the fair tax model, it takes two. The retailer that is administering it and you as a person buying. So you've got two elements that come into play under the fair tax to provide a scam. And on the other side of it, there's no taxation on used goods. If you buy something from a person, a used car or whatever it might be, there's no taxable event there. So there's no reason to scam the system. So it's all retail only. Since we've been kind of stymied with the power system or the power within the political arena, we've been looking for avenues to perhaps make headway. Well, some of that headway is seen right now in that there's been a lot of notoriety in Georgia because of the problems we've had with the election, a lot of new people coming out running for office, excuse me. And we see it as an opportunity to perhaps do something. We've got a very large surplus that's developed over the last couple of years. And some of the problems in the legislative area and the special interest is they look at it and say, when we're talking about transitioning to no income tax, they say, oh, the income tax, you can't get rid of it, we'll have a big deficit. Well, if you look at it realistically, the income tax is more like this in times of economic change, and the sales tax or the consumption tax is more like this, much more stable, because people have to buy stuff. And if they lose a job, they still have to buy groceries somehow, and you wind up with a much more even flow in bad or good economic times. So with that in mind, with the climate that we have in Georgia, with a lot of new people coming into play as far as perhaps removing the old guard, if you want to call it that, the establishment, there's a lot of things that people say about entrenched politicians that make a living out of politics rather than being part-time and this kind of thing. So we've got change in the air. And it just so happens that a lot of the folks that are running for office that are new to the system like to see change made and want something that simplifies people's lives. That's good for the people to make their lives more simple. So on the political level, we've got 3 people running for governor currently that are proponents to eliminate the income tax. Senator Perdue just got in the race. Vernon Jones is all over getting rid of the income tax. Candace Taylor wants to get rid of the income tax. Governor Kemp, since the beginning, he says he's not for the fair tax because he's got his own tax program, but he's never defined what that tax program is. So we don't know what he'll do, but he has not espoused getting rid of the income tax. He's for reducing it and, changing the numbers around, moving the chairs on the Titanic, that kind of thing. So we don't know what's going to happen there. But the folks that are running for lieutenant governor are typically are for the elimination of the income tax. Other folks at a high level are also for eliminating the income tax. Folks running for the chairs in the various committees talk about eliminating the income tax. So we've got hope in the arena that something good's going to happen. Okay, so to augment that, we at Georgians and on the national level, Americans for Fair Taxation, have come up with a potential that is going to be a game changer. And that comes from a fellow that lived in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, who was a big proponent of the fair tax and friends of the folks that started the fair tax movement, the rich Texans. He died recently. He had a hotel that he dedicated to causes that causes that he was interested in, one of which was the fair tax. So the administrator of his estate said, Mr. So-and-so was interested in getting the fair tax passed because he was friends of the people that started the movement. And so therefore, we're going to allow you, Americans for Fair Taxation, to make a request for a donation from this man's estate for promotion of the fair tax. Well, it comes to pass that this hotel that's going to be sold to form the corpus of that foundation is going to have about $26 million in it. And we are petitioning to get some of that money for promotion of the fair tax. Well, it just so happens that of the states that are working to get a fair tax passed, Georgia, Alabama, Nebraska, Texas, and a couple of others, Colorado, the governor there says she wants to get rid of theirs. It winds up that because of the political elements going on right now in Georgia, we're number one because we've got the best hope to get a state fair tax passed. So we are in the mix. By the first of the year, within the next couple of weeks, that money is supposed to be put on the table to be administered appropriately. And we've got our document in, our request for a subsistence. And the Americans for Fair Taxation will get the money in. It'll be doled out according to the state's needs. Well, in Georgia, what I've lined up is the top political and top political consultant in the state to work with us to get the fair tax passed on the state level. And also a major law firm in downtown Atlanta who is going to rewrite the bill to reintroduce it this coming session and put the weight of their organization behind the getting it passed, because they know all of the legislators, know the ins and outs within the lobbying process, and with the consultant that we're putting to work on it. Those two things together should give us a great opportunity to make a change this coming session or the next. So that's sort of where we stand. It's a broad overview of the way things have transitioned from zero back in the 1990s to now, where we've got a good potential. If we can get the Georgia system changed to a fair tax model, Alabama will probably fall close behind, Nebraska, and perhaps some other states. And once that happens, then there will be pressure on the national level to do the same thing. Because once they see it in action and that it's actually possible to get it done, politicians are going to feel much more favorable to doing something that will benefit them, because they'll be doing something good instead of something that is perhaps perceived as their own aggrandizement, as it were. So anyway, I sort of leave it there and answer any questions as far as simple things like what's my name. But anyway, if you have something that you want to, let bubble up, and I can probably answer it. But the technical stuff would be best pursued online if it's a technical question. Anyway, I'll open it up. Yes, sir.
So to recap, Under the fair tax, we'd have to repeal the 16th Amendment, right?
Well, that will be an element that will be a part of it. It's not directly written into the fair tax, but the way we've got it structured is that we will put in there that over a 7-year period, Congress will work to eliminate the 16th Amendment. And if they don't within that 7th year, then it'll revert back to the current system. And I think that something will happen because nobody will want to go back to where we are.
Right.
So,
So corporations wouldn't pay income tax, individuals wouldn't pay income tax, we wouldn't pay any payroll, Medicare, Social Security
Correct.
tax.
the
All
state
that
taxes,
All that disappears. And the rich, the poor are not taxed effectively. because
Correct.
it's Prepaid. And one question I have is, there's a lot of money sitting offshore right now, trillions of dollars that corporations won't bring back to the US because of the tax. How would a fair tax affect all that?
would not. You would bring them back because there'd be no taxable event for them to come home. And then the tax system would be set up to where they would be competitive in the world stage. They would have the access again directly to our technological capabilities, our school system, our workplace. Not all, but a lot of the manufacturing that went offshore will come back home. Simply because of
And the taxes will only be on new goods and services.
Correct.
And used goods are not taxed.
Right. And you're a technician in the tax world, so what's your question?
Well, if Congress tries to terminate the 16th Amendment, when you terminate an amendment, does each state have to vote on that?
It would have to be ratified by the
Ratified
states,
by the
yes.
state. Well, I mean, if you told me today, I didn't have to pay payroll tax, social security tax, whatever my marginal tax rate is, and I could get away with it with 22%, we could fund whatever we need to fund the country. I'd buy into that in a heartbeat. But I don't think that, it's a great idea. I've read studies by Art Laffer and other economists where they said if every American paid 17% in tax, it would cover all the needs of the country. And just the politics in certain parts of the country, I just see, I just don't see how you maneuver, even though this is probably the best thing for the country, but there's a lot of things that happen in this country that's not necessarily what's best for the country because of the politics.
Mhm.
And depending where you are, and which state, and which location. So I applaud you and the group because I think it's, it'd be great. But it seems to me like this would be really tough because of a lot of.
Obviously, we've been at it for 20 plus years in a technical way.
Yeah,
A lot of talk before.
yeah. A lot of ways to raise.
And we, I understand your sentiments and you're right, it's tough. But a lot of things that have gotten done were tough to start with. And I guess if you want to put things in the essence of whether they're tough or impossible, tough might take a little while, impossible takes a little longer. So we're in a little longer stage at this point. We're going to continue to move. And when you start seeing the light of positive things happening, someone like yourself that really understands the system, get involved, things will really change. So we're going to change your mind.
Oh, I'm all in. I mean,
Well, but you're
negative.
you're negative in your all inness, okay?
Well, I
But
just know
no,
how
I
it works.
understand.
I've been around the system a lot,
Yeah.
and I know the politics in DC pretty well, because I've been around it a lot.
Well, I understand, but as things move along, if it comes before you to sign a petition or something, or make a donation,
Absolutely.
we could sure use some of your money. Anybody else? Well, I might, we're in the process, everybody that works where I do in the fair tax are volunteers. But some of the things, or virtually everything we do costs money to get done. We've got to pay for the consultants, we've got to pay for the the attorneys and this kind of thing. If you have a urge to donate to something that would be good for you and good for the country, then go to georgiafairtax.org and check things out and see if it's something you want to donate to. We've got two ways to do that. One is georgiafairtax.org, and the other is fairtaxforum.org. Fairtax Forum is a 501c3, which I run, which is using the system. You can take a tax deduction for it. Under the georgiafairtax.org, it's a 501c4. You can't take a tax deduction for it because it's two different things that we can do. The 501c4 is we can do more lobbying directly for it within the political process. But under the 501c3, we can't do lobbying directly. It has strictly educational. And so that's where we're coming from. And I've got literature and business cards here. If you take one with you and cogitate about it, I think cogitate's a good word, and maybe help us out, we'd sure appreciate it. So thank you for your time. Greg told me that I'd get a special pen. That's a custom. Now I've got to figure out how to hold on to it.
All right. Jim, thank you so much for educating us and giving us more information on the fair tax. Francis, Tamara, thank you all for coming. Hope to see you both back here soon. And don't forget about the Christmas party and the sign-up sheet there for the gifts for kids.
And Tom, before you do that, for the board members.
Yes,
board
thank you.
meeting Next Thursday here. at
That's right.
6:45.
So District Governor, thank you, Jack. Next week, the District Governor is here. We're going to be meeting on the far side. We're not meeting in the event center here because Georgia College got it from us. But we'll have our Ed President, our District Governor here, and the board, we're going to meet at 10:45 before this meeting because District Governor wants to meet with us there. So we'll be on the other side at 10:45 for the board members. All right. With that, we're dismissed. Thank you.